Well, good evening, everybody. It's Blair Nightingale here with you. Market Monday, 1st of 2024. It's amazing. We are here for another year. Last year, I should say, not yesterday. Last year was honestly a record-breaking year over here at Tradeway. You guys made that possible. Thank you so much. You might be with us tonight, brand new, live, coming in. Maybe you're watching this on recording. It's a little bit later tonight, January 8th, 2024. If you're with us, regardless, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for spending some time with us on Monday night. Here on Market Monday, we get to do a lot of things around the markets. We help people break down the confusing world of finance so that you can learn to take more control of what's going on with your money, because as everybody likes to say, nobody cares about your money more than you. A lot of you probably are coming into the new year and saying, you know what? One of my goals is I want to level up in my finances. Okay. There are multiple ways to do that. There's ways to steward. I have a mentor. He says, living, giving, saving, right? Living, giving, saving. Those are simple ways to look at how can I be a better steward in different ways, right? We talk about all those things, but primarily here at Tradeway, we want to help you understand what's going on with my investments, my money. We want to protect what we have, but how can I also use the stock market to serve growth so that I'm not just protecting what I have, I want to promote what I have as well through active trading in the US stock market. So we're not even going to waste any time this year. We're going to dive in. I want to show you some stuff. What do I think is something to watch for in 2024? Number one. Number two, I'm going to show you some things that are good questions that you want to ask yourself right off the bat. We're only a week into January, okay? Right off the bat, there's a scripture. It says that without prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint. Here at Tradeway, we don't shy away from asking the Lord, what is your vision for my life this year? Where are you leading me? What is old? What is new? What is changing? Okay. What are you inviting me into? How are you working in my finances? Okay. We talk about many other areas, right, in life, but here at Tradeway, even though we don't believe money is our highest power, it's not our highest power. It is a powerful tool. And when we submit it unto the Lord, then it can be multiplied and used. That's for you to have that conversation with him, of course, but we want to give you practical skills in the midst of that conversation. We don't shy away from that conversation. So what's the vision? What's the vision you have? When we have a vision, what the scripture says, if we do not, I should say, have a vision, we cast off restraint. In other words, if we don't have a strong yes, we don't have a strong no. So when it comes to our trading, I want to look at three things tonight. I'm going to present to you three things that I think are crucial when you're setting yourself up for what's the vision of this year. Okay. We will be doing, Dave Huber and I will be doing a broadcast tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. We're going to dive a lot deeper into a full vision for 2024. I want to spend a little bit more time here looking and talking about the markets themselves. That's what we do here on Market Monday. Otherwise, we ought to just call it Monday, right? It's not. It's Market Monday. So we want to take more time and do that tomorrow. That'll be 11 a.m. You can join us tradeway.com, and you'll be able to get onto that as well. If you're already a student or you're in our database, of course, we're going to send that invite out to you. Okay. Remember, you can always email support@tradeway.com. If you have a question, you're looking for a resource, something like that, we've got a whole team of people there who are happy to help you out. Okay. With that said, I'm going to give you those three things. And then I just want to tell you some things that are practically coming up this week. We have active traders that are on this broadcast every week. Traders that are in our program, right? Other people out there, you're actively trading. Maybe you're looking for more training, more mindset training, because you know trading is 90% mental. You're looking for different tools, skills, you want to up your game, you want to just be encouraged. Trading can be a lonely game for a lot of traders out there. I know that. I've seen that. So this is a great community to be a part of, whatever your reason is tonight. It is a brand new year. It's a brand new season, and we get an opportunity to feel refreshed, press in together, and hit some brand new heights this year. Certainly those are my goals for this year, is to really take this specific skill set to another level in 2024. Now, I see some questions. I'm going to pause and say, Matt and Stephanie are with us. Hello from Indiana. So we've got folks from Indiana. We've got California here. Abraham, I know Abraham. Center Field 17. All right. What was the catalyst for today's rally? Let me put a pin in that for a second. Pause, because we'll look at that in a second. But I just want to say thank you to everybody for chiming in, saying hello. Whether you're with us on Facebook or YouTube, you can always chime in the chat. If you ask a question, I'm happy to answer it, whether it's directly about what I'm talking about or it's just within the realm of stocks and finance. It's something that I love to be able to engage with you guys. That's the benefit of being here live, of course. Where else do you get to do that? So that's awesome. Sunny Cal Gal says, I so appreciate Tradeway. Learning lots, right? I'm working with students, talking with students in our Tradeway programs every day. And it's just, it's really awesome. It's a great community of people. Very positive, uplifting, focused, hungry group of traders. So it's really, really special to be a part of. So thank you for throwing that in there as well. Center field, I haven't forgotten. I'm going to get to that. I want to talk a little bit here, and I will head over to the chart. You know, from last week even, we had, if I pull this line out of here, we really just had the indexes kind of go sideways. We got a little bit below the 20-day, a little squirrely, right? Getting into the start of the year, we had that sell-off at just about all-time highs, because 4,800, guys, is all-time highs. So just start of the year, a little bit of that, still that recession concern, believe it or not, is still in there. It's a little bit of a whipsaw. We saw news later last year where the Fed is saying, all right, we're going to cut some rates in 2024. That sent the market zooming higher, but then the Fed dropped a little bit of a wrench, or threw, I should say, a little bit of a wrench in the gears and said, you know, maybe we said that a little premature. We'll have to see. You know, we're not backing off from our position completely, but maybe we didn't mean that as much as we said we meant it. So we had a move down, looking for, you know, that kind of an environment, looking for a breakout above all-time highs after such a big year. It's going to take a lot of pressure. It's going to take a lot of momentum to do that at that point. The market pulls back, struggles for a few days, and then begins to move up today. So I was going to talk a little bit about 2024 and then get into the market. But since Centerfield's got such a great question, we can flip that around. Let's take a look. Obviously, you can see, you know, the NASDAQ up, near 45% on the year last year, right? The NASDAQ is primarily tracking those tech stocks, although the S&P 500 is a heavily tech-weighted index as well. Okay, it's not majority, but it is a heavy weight of the 11 sectors that you include in the S&P 500. So watching tech, in my opinion, is important, even when you're using a broad-based index like the S&P 500. So as we're beginning to get tone, market tone is what we call it. What's market tone? Well, let me put it this way, guys. When you go outside every day and you're going to do something, you might check the weather. You might check the weather, okay? Just because weather conditions are one thing or another doesn't necessarily mean you will or will not go outside at all, but you may adjust what you are doing because of the weather, the tone. We use market tone, and we teach this much more extensively in our program, but we use market tone to tell us that. Some of you guys out there, you've been picking trades, doing trades, but if you aren't looking at the overall tone, then there's another layer that you can use to help increase the potential probability of your positions, because you're actually working with the market and not against it, right? We want to prepare for the conditions outside, and ultimately, some days we won't even go outside, right? Some days we won't even go outside, but that's going to be a little less rare. Some days we just have to prepare. I also liken this to driving, right? Depending on the weather, depending on the visibility, you may drive slower, you may drive faster. Here in Texas, usually once a year, guys, we're going to get a crazy snowstorm. And that means I'm not actually going to go out and I'm not going to drive at all that day. That's not the majority of the time. That's the rarity. However, it informs the amount of risk I'm willing to take. What's the riskiest thing you do every day? Drive. For most people, that's the case, right? So when we're trading our money, when we're driving our trading account, we want to use that market tone to help give us input into how fast we may want to drive that particular day. So the NASDAQ's important in that. The reason I say most of that is because really I think we caught a good bounce in the tech sector, right? We were seeing a sell-off in the NASDAQ, in tech. This was definitely coming outside of this trend line, broke down. Now we've run right back up to the trend line here. It was looking pretty weak. And I said for a few days last week, I don't like where the S&P's really at with the NASDAQ breaking below the moving averages and failing as much as it was. What am I doing? I'm getting a sense of the tone. I'm just getting a sense of the tone. I'm not trying to guess what tomorrow is going to be. I don't have a crystal ball. That's not what trading is. That's not what the chart does for us. But it does help us see weakness and momentum. It does help me see repetition and pattern, which gives me probability. That's what we're learning to look at. For those of you who are new tonight and you haven't been with us before, I want to encourage you guys. You might feel like finance is going to be a whole new language. And it's true. There will be some things that you have to learn, right? They're building blocks. And in some ways, it is a language. But I want to encourage you tonight. If you've got some 2024 goals for your finances, I want to congratulate you on being in the right place at the right time. Because this is a place, and I bet there's a bunch of students on here tonight who would agree with what I'm about to say. There's a bunch of people who would say, I had to learn that language. I thought it all looked really new, but I was hungry to increase in this area of my life. And I found a community of people who came around me and gave me the conditions, the teaching, the encouragement, the covering, the expertise that I needed to be able to grow, know, and go some places that I didn't think I would ever be able to do on my own. Even just understanding all of this, putting the pieces together, is something that we see people do every day. We help you do that. We create a garden. What's a garden? It's an environment that is set up so that growth is natural. If you're trying to create some breakthroughs in 2024 in your finances and you say, yeah, you know what? I think I'm just going to do it all on my own. If you do the thing last year that gave you what you got last year, again, this year, you're going to get this year what you got last year. Right? We have to change the conditions. Old wineskins, new wineskins, right? Old wine goes into old wineskins, but new wine is for new wineskins. That is a picture of transition. Yes, Jesus in that scripture, Mark chapter 2, of course, he's teaching about covenants, right? He's not teaching about stock trading, but there's a principle there of transition and what it looks like to embrace that new wine or that power for change. So we definitely want to highlight that. Now, back to the market for a second here. As I said, I want to say just quickly some things coming up this week. That was the reason for the bounce, really. All right. They started stepping in and buying the bounce on technology. Later this week, Thursday, Friday, we've got CPI. That's inflation. You guys have been hearing a lot in the last few years about inflation. Well, over here at Tradeway, us traders, we follow the CPI, right? That's the consumer price index. It's a fancy way of saying how much is stuff costing. Okay, there's the producer price index. That's also on Friday. How much are goods costing? Okay, not for you and me, but for those who are producing those goods, and it's a little bit different there, right? The surface level of it that we need to know is those numbers are going to be watched by our government, or more specifically, pseudo government, the Federal Reserve, as they're going to assess whether or not that inflation is getting healthier or otherwise, right? Markets will be looking to see if they are to be confident that the Fed is going to lower rates. Now, that said, I'm not going to get into a bunch of macroeconomic mumbo jumbo tonight, but I will tell you the main thing that I expect for 24. It's really twofold, and I'll make it very, very simple this year. Number one, the market is going to continue to be obsessed with the Federal Reserve. You and I are going to continue to be obsessed with good discipline, good process, good patterns. We don't need to know everything the Federal Reserve is doing. Okay. We don't need to guess their future, is what I'm driving at. But the market will continue to follow the Federal Reserve. As long as interest rates are higher, they're going to salivate for interest rates to come down. Okay. If they get that, they'll be happy. If they don't, they probably won't be happy. Whatever happens in the market, I tell people all the time, trading isn't about knowing what the stock is going to do tomorrow. Trading is about you and I knowing what we are going to do tomorrow, regardless of what the stock does. It's never guessing, gambling, or going for it. If you're new tonight and you feel like, oh, maybe this is just kind of throwing money at the market, it's a little bit of voodoo magic and we just try to make some money, that's not what trading is at all. Trading is discipline, probabilities, right? It's process, and it's managing you and me. I have to manage me. You have to manage you. We talk about that. How do we do that here on Tradeway? But this year, Federal Reserve, that's going to be the big thing, right? Number one. Number two, of course, I'd be remiss to not say it. It's going to take some time. It's going to ramp up. But there's an election this year. Now, how much is the election really going to impact the market before we really get to the actual day, right? Because that could be significant. And we'll talk about that as we get to the end of the year, of course. But we're going to have a pretty wild year, I would gather. Okay. How much that's going to affect the market, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Okay. I won't comment politically too much, except that I think anybody who hasn't been living under a rock for the last little while can see that there's an increased degree of volatility when it comes to politics. And it just depends on how far both sides of the aisle are really willing to go to stifle the other side of the aisle. And as long as we're civil and we color inside the lines this year in terms of our government, our representatives, and even potentially people within the country, then stability will remain, and it probably won't affect Wall Street too significantly before the election. Okay. Of course, civil unrest, all that kind of stuff. Hey, that could affect the markets for sure. It all depends. We'll see how that unfolds as the year goes on. I know that's a question I'll get more and more. Hey, Blair, what do you think about the election this year and what's going to happen? So that's my thoughts at the outset of 2024. Okay. With that said, I've got some more comments on here. Mark Derby just wants to say, hey, everybody, Happy New Year to you. So I want to post that up there. Dennis. I didn't recognize the username, Dennis, right? So that's awesome. Yes. The favorite student ever award. I love it. That's great. And Ernie, who I also know, is here with us tonight as well. Okay. So that's where we're starting out this week. Let's go back to the S&P really quickly, just so we know. Okay. You know, there's been things out there like, excuse me, we've been following along with something. Let's see. What is it? Is this guy? All right. Something like this out there. DBX, you know, look, this is just this beautiful trending pattern. Number one, we've got this nice trending pattern comes in on this day into support. We looked at this in our program, right? It comes into support of the trend line. It also comes into old resistance. The price that the market kept selling at. No, we don't think it's worth more than that. Oh, now we do. It pulled into that, not up to it, but down. Used it as a floor instead of a ceiling. That's number two. Number three, the 50-day moving average. Just some simple tools that you and I learned to use to gauge what? Predict the future? No. Probability. 50-day moving average. Bounced here. Well, let's see if it bounces there. In this case, it did. Okay, it did. So You've got 1, 2, 3 in this case. Do we always get that? Not necessarily, but it's a great example of something we're looking at out here. Okay. We're assessing market tone that tells us, hey, how fast do I want to drive? Doesn't always have to be, do I want to drive or not drive at all? It can be, I'm going to drive, but how fast? Same thing in our trading. And here's a good example of a pattern that does that. If you don't know how to put this together and you don't really know what I'm saying, Blair, kind of seems like you guys have a bit of a system and a schematic to put together that gives me probability, not guarantee, but probability for the future. And I can manage risk using that and other tools. You ought to go over tradeway.com/events. Step 1, start your journey. I will actually be teaching the Step 1 Start Your Journey this month of January. So join me to learn the foundation of our stock trading system. How do traders really trade? How does this work? Blair, you said it's not guessing, gambling, or going for it. Well, how's that possible? If we don't know the future, I'm pretty sure it's guessing, gambling, and going for it. Well, let me take a couple of days with you and I'll show you that that is indeed not the case, right? And if you don't have a skill set and you just throw money at the market, that's a whole lot closer to guessing, gambling, and just going for it, right? So here's a good example of that and how we bring that together with the S&P. When it actually opens up today and ends up holding, if you see that horizontal line I have there, we had one of those on there last week. We had it on here just like this, right? This candlestick falls, makes a low, and then it goes ahead and just barely pokes below the 20-day moving average, but then popped up nicely from that level today. And of course, what are we going to do? Well, let's zoom it in. Go this way. We're going to watch this level right here. Let me shrink that down for us. Right now, here's 4,800. I'll be watching that for sure, but we got to beat this line first. Nice strong move today. So we could get there, right? We could have some all-time highs before too long. Okay. I am cautiously optimistic, cautiously bullish on the all-time highs. Okay. I won't be surprised in the least if we just smash through there. The market's been very resilient. You know, it did very well last year from the lows. So who says we can't do that from here? Certainly that line around 4,700 is holding beautifully. Brent's with us from Las Vegas, right? Ernie, Lorena. Awesome. Good to see you guys. Now, I said I'd give you 3 things. Now, we want to cast vision this year. Okay, now that I know. I get it. So cliche. Early January, vision. Of course, I'm going to get on this broadcast with Blair, and that's what he's going to talk about. Well, we're going to do a lot more tomorrow morning. And Dave and I, listen, I don't want to toot my own horn. I don't want to sound that way. I just think with the community, Dave, Huber, and I from Tradeway, we've just had a really good time lately. You know, we've done these broadcasts once a month. Him and I, we get together and really just try to talk with you guys in the chat, converse, edify, encourage, build you up as believers, and help you understand how does breakthrough really work. Okay, we've been doing that. Well, we're going to take a quick pause on that series, which will continue next month, because we really do want to set you guys up for a strong vision. Get a strong yes right now so that you can have a strong no. I'm going to tell you, I think there's probably a couple places in my life right now where I would say, you know what? I have desire, but I don't think I have a strong enough yes. And it's not giving me a strong enough no. If you don't have a strong enough yes, you won't have a strong enough no. If you don't have a strong enough no, you'll be spread too thin. Mile wide, inch deep. You don't get breakthrough, right? Remember when Jesus told Peter, cast out the net into the deep. Into the deep. Oh, we haven't caught anything. All right, cast it out into the deep. Sometimes you got to go deeper, right? You can't go deeper if you don't have a no. You don't have a no if you don't have a strong yes. You don't have a strong yes if you don't have a vision. And I don't just want any vision. I want God's vision. I want God's vision. That sounds so, high and mighty. I understand. But I do. I want God's vision. I want to know what he is saying over every area of my life so that I'm aligned, because I want to walk in the grace of what he has for me, which is, by the way, better for you if I do that. It's better for me if you do that because I want to receive him through you and you want to receive him through me. Some of you guys are thinking, I thought this was about stock trading. It is, right? But we're going to cast vision tomorrow. Tonight, I'm going to give you some specifics here. Number one, casting vision for the year. Ask yourself some of these things, right? What are your new habits going to be and how are you going to build them is really what we're driving at here. Okay. So I want to give you three and I've touched on them a little bit. The first thing is this. We have to continue to grow and learn this year. Okay. What is price edge? Get away from price action and learn price edge. It's not a silver bullet. It's not perfect, but it's high probability setups. Do I know how to really identify those? Again, it's not a magic bullet. And different traders do this in different ways. There's multiple ways to trade, and we teach multiple ways to trade here. But we want to understand better this year. What is price edge? I gave you an example just a moment ago to give you a picture of what that might look like, okay? As we get better at being technical analysts, okay, and you can believe me, and somebody can holler in the chat if you how many guys out there in the chat, you've been trading now for some time, and your ability right now in technical analysis, because even I say that word technical analysis and it can be so overwhelming for some people when you're brand new. How many of you are like, I can't believe I know as much as I do about reading price and looking at stock charts as I do, considering where you started? Maybe you knew zero, nothing, nada. You took your first class and you were like, okay, I got to step out in faith and see if I can really learn this. How many people out there feel like I can't believe I know as much as I know now? Because I want to encourage some other people on here. You can learn the language. You can learn how to do this, right? You really can learn how to read these charts because they're driven by human behavior, and human behavior is repetitious. And we look for repetition in the chart and we exploit that price movement. Ernie says, let's see if I can get it up here. I'm surprised by how much I know in 3 months compared to where I was knowing absolutely nothing when I started. 3 months, Lorena says, started a little late towards the end of 2023. But yeah, I know some stuff, right? Near the very end. And we took a Christmas break in there, obviously, right? So we're already rocking and rolling. Again, conditions, right? Conditions, sunny Cal Gal, I knew zero in March 2023. That's less than a year. I'm blown away today. Yes, you can learn it for sure. You can learn. You can learn the language. You can learn the setups. This is good, right? This is really good. Okay, I maybe am missing something on that. All right. New habits going into the year. I can do this. Price edge. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get started. I'm going to master. I'm going to learn something new. Right? I'm going to step into something that intimidates me. I'm just going to do it. You know, I heard a coach say some years ago, he said, I count my life in summers. He's older. Okay. And he's saying that this is how many summers, according to average life expectancy. He's like, that's how many summers I probably have left. And he's saying, no, that's not many summers, right? I count Christmases. I like Christmas. This is true. I think Christmases. I'm not going to get heavy on us here, but I think this is how many Christmases I may have with that family member. This is how many Christmases I have in this life. At the risk of being overly dramatic, I don't want to be underly dramatic, because why not this year? Why not now? And this goes for trading, but this goes for a lot of other things too, right? Whatever it is. And this is the beauty of January. Everybody's willing to have this conversation. In the Tradeway community, we want to have this conversation 12 months of the year. Okay? But everybody wants to have this conversation in January, and I'll take it. I'll take it. Number two, I had a call with a student earlier today, and we really talked about what I said, learning price edge. But the second thing was, if I have two setups, why would I choose one over the other? What's the next level? Yeah, we got the foundation. What's the next level, though? Why would I choose the one over the other? There are some simple skills. Pattern A, pattern B, setup A, setup B could be a little bit different. Okay. And it comes down to price range, it comes down to risk management, it comes down to consistency. Learn what makes a great setup. Not a guaranteed setup, a great setup. A great setup. Not good, not maybe, not could. One of our other coaches, Jeffrey, likes to say it's not could, but should work. Not could work, but should work. What makes a great setup? We're going to look at that some this year, okay? And then I want to say, how are you and me going to dial in and track our personal management? I'll tell you what I mean by that. You are the driver of the vehicle. I mentioned the weather, the market tone. That's the conditions you're going to drive in, okay? That's the road you're going to drive on. And the car that you're going to drive is the two things I just mentioned, the price edge and what makes something great, what really sets up great risk management. Because traders are not profit chasers, they're risk managers, okay? They plant good roots and they let the fruit come as a result of that. Okay, everybody else is just chasing, and that gets them into trouble. They may make some money for a time, but they usually give it back. That's how that tends to work. Okay. I've tested that theory, by the way. Okay. So you don't have to. Okay. Now, that said, moving on to dialing in and tracking your personal management. Okay. That's something that I want to say, this is not hobby. Okay. This is business, not hobby, but business. So with that said, what are the goals that you have per month? Now, set a monetary goal, right? Even if you're paper trading, but set a skill goal. Okay, what's the skill I want to learn for this month? Okay, we're going to talk about this more again tomorrow morning. We'll really dive into this stuff. But I want us to be thinking about what's going to shift us from hobby trading to business trading. Hobby trading to business trading. A lot of us aren't getting the results that we want to have in our trading because we're still treating it like a hobby. It's peripheral. It's kind of a side note. Now, you might be very busy. There are different ways to figure out how to fit trading into your life. Okay, we can talk about that. But we do want to shift that commitment level. We actually talked about this on a meeting today between us coaches. When we get a student who is ready to commit and is ready to really buy into that process and apply and adjust and challenge themselves, it's the difference is just tremendous from somebody who's more in a spot where they're just not decided. They're indecisive. They're not really committed. It's more of a hobby, okay? Which is fine and well, but there's other hobbies that are probably better than trading. We want to level you up for 2024, right? We want to help you reach those goals that you have. So with that said, one of the things in 2024 that I think is extremely important is how to dial in and track your personal management, okay? What, if you could tell me, I'll give you a couple examples right now. If you could tell me, number one, what are some high probability setups you look for in one or two sentences? Could you tell me right there? This is what I look for. This is why. Okay. That would be one thing. Number two, I would say, do you have a way to go back and review all of your entries and exits on the trades that you've been doing, and you see how you've been growing emotionally, because you understand that trading is largely emotional. You have to master yourself. Okay. You have to master yourself. That would be the second thing I would say. There should be goals in each of these areas, right? And we can help you develop those kinds of goals. Okay. We'll announce some stuff later this month where I'm actually going to have an opportunity for you guys to do a day-to-day program where we're really going to be walking through these things in real time once a day. Okay. That comes later. But really moving on and dialing in. Okay. Really moving into dialing that in this year. Don't let this be another year where you just take in information. Okay. This needs to be a year where we go, how effective is my information translating to application? And then I'm reviewing and adjusting and moving on from there. Okay. We want to have profit goals. We do. We want to have what we call NPVs or non-profit goals. Okay. Where I go, because it's so easy for a trader to wrap everything up in I made money on the trade or I didn't. Okay. But you can do everything right and not make money. You can do everything wrong and make money in a single trade. But over time, habits and risk management will show up. One way or the other. Over time, they will show up. Okay. So we want to make sure we're looking at that for this year. And what I'm really driving at with all of this, two things. One, again, tomorrow we're going to have a whole session where we go into really just vision for 2024, and we'll be able to get into some more nuts and bolts. But tonight, what I really want to show you is how can I begin to say, all right, where do I want to end up? What's the strong yes I'm going to have this year? How am I going to support that? Environment matters. When I set a goal, I want to begin to build an environment in my life that nurtures that goal. I don't want to set goals in an environment from last year that actually oppose the goal that I'm setting, because I'm always working against the current, against the wind. I'm beginning to build that environment. That's what we want to help you do. Okay. And the main things that get overlooked is, yes, we're going to set some profit goals, but what are some things that I need to do to up my game and maybe get out of that hobby and into that business side of things? Hey, I need to really learn more of what I'm doing this year. I really need to get some more coaching on this specific area this year. Or maybe I need to take that very first class. Like a lot of people will come through that first step one class and they just get an enormous injection, is the word I'm going to use. In a world, they go, you know what? Nobody ever told me any of that. I just never heard it before. I had a financial advisor maybe for 15, 20, 25, 30 years. I just never heard that. Not because it's all secret, right? But because it's not industry norm when you're just paying somebody else to manage your money. It's just not what they do. And that's what's unique about what we do here. So give yourself the gift of empowerment. Give yourself the gift of vision. Strong no comes from a strong yes. Give yourself the gift of, do I have hobby goals this year or do I have business goals this year? I have business goals. Okay, then I'm not going to get by on hobby habits. Okay, I'm going to need some environment to help me shift those. I better come tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. And I promise you, I did not get on tonight thinking, yeah, I'm really just going to plug tomorrow morning. I really wasn't. But the more I look at how much ground we could really cover, I think it'll be really good for everybody to be there if you can. But that said, this gives you some thoughts to think about this year, okay? And I meant to add in there as well and return to the theme, or this idea rather. Nonprofit victories mean that you're celebrating the things you're doing that are good habits, good root system, not only when you make money in a trade or when you place even a paper trade and do that, right? You have to celebrate those other things along the way because it's all what you string together. And we need encouragement. I need encouragement. I can be very results based. So, if it didn't do X, Y, Z, then maybe it wasn't valuable. That's not actually true. And it actually sabotages part of the process, which is necessary for us to move forward. So you really want to have an idea of how you're going to do that. How are you going to partner with the Lord spiritually over your finances this year? Maybe you do that already, right? What's the next level? Okay. Blair, are you saying that if I partner with God spiritually, that I'm just going to go win every trade? I say this for the sake of those of you who've not been on with us before. Okay. Because maybe you just don't really know us. You don't know our heart. So my answer to that is no, I am not saying that. But I am saying we're a people of stewardship and it covers our money. And we absolutely want to go, Lord, invite me out of the boat this year in my finances. What does it look like? Right? Am I going to give more? Am I going to save more? Am I going to invest more? It's going to be all three. Are there some habits I could get out of? Are there some habits I could get into? Do you want me to believe for something that's way beyond what I could possibly ask or imagine? You say, Blair, that's kind of a slippery slope saying that about money. You could say that about anything. Throw your nets into the deeper water. What happened? Miraculous catch of fish. Well, what is that? It's a business miracle. Blair, I'm not so sure that's the whole point of that scripture. I'm not either. I don't think it's the whole point of that scripture, but I do think it's what he did. Right? So these things actually matter. So we're going to set some goals, nonprofit goals, profit goals, not just annual, every month, every week. If you do consistent in a week, okay, consistent every 2 weeks, you can be consistent in the month. If you make the good decisions today, right, that's going to add up to a good week of decisions. A good week of decisions is going to add up to a month. That's going to start to be habits. Habits are going to turn after 3 months, a quarter, 2 quarters into trends. And trends of good habits can take us further than we thought we were going to be able to go, right? As we're learning, as we're implementing, we go, oh man, I've learned more than I thought I was going to be able to learn. Okay, I'm at a place where I feel confident entering and exiting the market in a practical way, in a way that I didn't think I was going to be able to do. Or maybe you didn't think you were going to do. Okay. I'm gonna post this here. Mastery of that setup is what makes a great setup. So I'm gonna comment on that because there's 2 things there. So what Dennis is getting at is when you find a great setup, okay. I know somebody who says the money is in the management. The money's in the management. We can get into trades, we can get out of trades, but it's what happens in between, right? It's in the management. So a great setup, is it just a pattern on the screen, or is it what we do with that once we get in? Okay, this is why I said managing yourself and learning and tracking that is important. We'll talk about that more as we go through the year, of course. But mastering a single setup or a specific type of setups is part of what makes it great, because you're training you. So we have to find better opportunities, and then we have to train in those opportunities. Okay, so that actually makes great sense. Everybody's got an uncle who says, stock trading is not possible. Well, there's some pieces here that, I've met a lot of uncles, and God bless the uncles. I'm an uncle. But if they've never actually learned the skill set, then they're coming to a conclusion that's based on having no skills. Right. So agreed, absolutely, on the mastery there, right? Money is a tool. Okay. I got you. One day at a time, one day, foundation upon foundation, right? It's like anything. Our friend Myron Golden, he says at one point, you didn't know how to get up the stairs. You didn't know how to feed yourself. You didn't know how to walk. You did pretty well. I think you can do this, right? One day at a time. And this is the same thing. Okay. Ernie says, it's so true. I've taken a poor trade and turned it into a complete loss because of emotions listening to Shirley. Surely it'll come back up. Surely it'll do this. And we help you navigate that season safely. Traders have to discover their emotional strengths and weaknesses when they're trading. How do we do that? Well, we lead you through a process where we just don't go big. We just don't go big until we're ready. Okay. However long that takes, we go through that process. And if you make those mistakes, if you trade with Shirley, it's okay, right? We live to trade another day, we like to say. So this kicks us off this year. What is trading? What do we do? What are some thoughts for the new year? What's going to happen in the markets? I think I missed one thing. I thought somebody said, yeah, I wanted to comment on this. Any big worries about recession this year, happening this year, like everyone was predicting for 2023 that never happened? I'll say a couple things about that. Number one, it's true. A lot of people predicted that, and it did not happen. I would say a couple of things. I don't know if we're ready to declare the soft landing, quote unquote, yet. I was even reading some articles today, and it's a mixed bag, right? Did we really get a soft landing? We're not there yet. We're not out of the woods yet. Inflation's not at the 2%. The economy still has some risks. You know, economies always have some risks, but there are definitely some factors that are still a big question mark. So I don't think we're there yet, but you're right. There was a lot of bearishness, and I think warranted. Okay, some people are just bears, guys. They're always bears. They're always waiting for the next bearish move. It doesn't matter what the market's doing, and it's like, this thing's going to tank. You know, there's that, which is bias. We all have it, but some are pretty extreme. That said, this year there was a lot of reason to see that. There was a lot of reason to see that. There were a lot of fundamental reasons why, a lot of monetary indicators. You take the yield curve, even, for example, short-term versus long-term interest rates, totally inverted. It's always predicted a recession. Haven't seen that recession yet. A lot of people were wrong. A lot of Wall Street got it wrong. That's true. So really what we like to do here is go, you know what? If we get it, we'll get it, right? If you see the S&P 500 break the 200-day moving average, something might be happening, okay? And if it doesn't, well, then it doesn't. But and Dennis knows this, when we empower ourselves, okay, we have line in the sand technical indicators that aren't about what's going to happen tomorrow. It's about we can recognize what's happening today. And there are some lines in the sand to say, oh, wow, this is getting really weak, or this is getting really strong. And then we know what to do when it does that. Okay. So as far as predicting, I'm not going to do that. However, there are still voices out there that are saying, hey, we're not out of the woods. I'll give you one example as we wrap up here tonight. Think about this. The Fed is looking to cut interest rates, okay? Well, here's one of the concerns. This has happened in the past. When the Fed cuts interest rates, or announces, I should say, when they announce, but we don't know exactly when, what can happen is a lot of the money that would be flowing in the economy sits on the sidelines. Why? Well, we're waiting for those cheaper rates. We're waiting to buy houses. We're waiting to take loans. We're waiting to move the money because it's not going to be too long and we could get a better rate. What does that do? Well, it can stop the flow of money and some of the cash. There's always cash moving. There's always players, but it can be a risk factor. Could that play into it? Second thing I'll say, and I've been saying this for a while, we've still had higher rates and they're still working their way through different sectors of the economy. It hasn't worked all the way through. So is there something else that just might, quote unquote, break? I understand that's very vague, that's very general, but it could. It could impact us in ways that we didn't foresee. Do we sit around waiting for that thing, whatever that thing might be? No, we don't. Could it happen? It sure could. It sure could, right? Do I personally think the chances of a recession have decreased? Given the information that we have, I do. Okay. However, that doesn't mean it's a done deal. It doesn't mean it's a done deal. Okay. Because we had a pretty high probability of that happening last year and it didn't. Even if it's lower this year, it could. Right? And I think that's potentially where end of the year, some of the election may come into play. It depends on what the expectations are and the platforms are from Wall Street. Okay. So that said, guys, good start to the beginning of the year. We're going to be back with more content tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Join us. We'd love to have you. We're going to get much more specific and methodical. How do we set you off and start you right 2024 in your trading? That's what's happening in the markets right now this week. Things I'll be watching through this year as well. And I appreciate each and every one of you. We're going to have a huge 2024, and we'll do everything in our power to help it be a huge 2024 for you. That's what we're all about. If it's not huge for you, it's not huge for us. Okay. So we're going to help you move forward. Appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you next week. Good night.